He is actually going that fast. So
I
very
had to
impressive.
start
Very
it. I had
sly
to
there,
start it.
Gary. I noticed that
Very
little
slight.
badge.
Did you
Yeah, we
notice
saw the
that?
little
Well,
red thing come on
Yeah.
there. Go for us.
oh, well, I had to
Yeah.
start it because, as normal, all the better stuff or the more interesting stuff we talk about before we flip and
Yeah,
start.
we've all got our clothes back on now.
Yeah. I'm going to pull my underpants back up.
So tell us again, what have you got there, Ian?
I have bought a Happy model. What is it officially, Bruce? It is a Mobula 6. Now, I've bought the Express LRS edition, which is a controversial model, apparently, because they changed the motor sizes and not everyone thinks it was for the better on the Express LRS version. And I didn't realize this until after I'd ordered it and it was already en route. And there's...
What size motors has yours got? Mine's
These-
got 25,000 kV.
Yes, and yours will be 0802s or 0804s, and they moved this one to 0702s, which was a bit of a strange choice, allegedly, and there's been quite a controversy, and it turns out, as it always does, after you buy one of these things, that you start reading everything and sort of going, oh, bugger. And it turns out
that's
the
very
better
much ain't
move
that truth, isn't
was
it?
to
After you
go
buy
for the...
stuff.
What's that one, Bruce?
He's got the better one, I bet. I bet you he has.
It's 0802.
0802s. Now, the standard one, which is FR Sky, I think, module on it, comes with the 0802s. And for some reason, the built-in Express LRS model, because I thought, oh, I'll go for that, comes with these other motors, which reduces flight time a little bit. But the annoyance is, all I had to do was buy the other one and put on one of the 0.5 gram Express LRS receivers, and I'd have still been better than this. It's not a bad drone, but the people who fly them reckon the standard model is a little bit better. But there's good news. When I burn the motors out, which is inevitable, I can then replace them with the 0802s.
True, it won't be long. It won't be long and you'll be replacing them. Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
For just £10.
Just £10. So the Express LRS part of that, explain why you want a long range radio system.
Well, I don't. It suited me because of the radios I had. If I wanted to fly at FR Sky, I'd have to dig out the Taranis or the TX16. And there's some irony saying I'm going to use my largest radio to fly my smallest drone, which sort of is a bit irony. Now, I am intending to fly it with this, which is the cheaper Beta FPV radio, because I can just leave this wherever this is, and it makes, it's a nice pair, to be fair.
It's a nice pair.
But it's a nice pair. I could just leave them on places. But the idea was, I just thought if I ordered the Express LRS model, it just suits me. It was ready to go. I didn't need to do anything more with it. But it turns out the Express model is not only heavier, it has the worst motors as well. So no good deed. What they've done is by integrating it on the board, they added 4 grams of weight, whereas the receiver only weighs 0.5 gram if you add just an Express LRS receiver. So what they reckon, Bruce, is best to add something like an EP1 to yours, because you gain like 0.5 gram of weight, and that's it. And 0.5 gram adds up on something this small. And I am not remotely an expert on whoops.
Well, I should say, because now is the official start time. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I started early because as ever, we were having an interesting chat before we started, and it's like, well, I should start with that then. I've got to get myself one of those things. Does the Express LRS mean you can fly it around more rooms of your house?
Yeah, it will help with that a bit, but the other range is going to be all right.
I've never had a range problem in my house with this.
I think video is the problem more than range on these. Yeah, I think
video. Yeah, okay, video.
It's because look, the thing is, and something that's really, the whole Whoop world sort of passed me by. I've got smaller aircraft, but I was never into this. But the reality is, for like, I think this was 70-80 pounds delivered, you've got no regulation to care about. You've got no government telling you.
Excuse me, but the rules still apply, Ian. You can't say the ruls don't apply. There is regulation. Everything applies. You're not in Canada now, mate.
I'm not the Prime Minister now. No one told me it was illegal, right? That's the line I'm saying.
Not that it was your birthday surprise.
Or it was my birthday.
Party.
No one told me.
Is he still your prime minister?
He's hanging on. But that thread is really thin right now. Really thin. But
he's going to send troops into the Ukraine or wherever to bolster the defenses. So war is always great when you're under challenge as a leader.
So that's why I bought this. So when I'm living in my bunker, hiding away from the nukes, I can at least fly something.
Actually, you're near a really big target, aren't you? There, so
you might need to wrap it in tinfoil to harden it against ionizing radiation. That would be the thing to do, and also do your head while you're at it.
This is actually one of those frustrations where Bruce's one is seen, the standard model is seen to be basically one of the best on the market, period. And then a manufacturer goes off and goes, oh, we're going to go and add this, this, and this, and makes it worse. And it's just a classic example of when manufacturers don't really take on board the feedback from the community. And it's not terrible, but look, the thing is on these things, every gram counts. That's the reality here, apparently.
Well, the other thing too is that typical Chinese, they start with something really good and they realize they're making a little bit of money. So then they start cutting back on the costs. So they make more money and they live off the reputation of the original one, which is good. But the later versions sometimes are really, really bad.
I think the comments have been, if you've never flown the first one, you'll be fine with this. But when you hop from one to the other, you sort of feel, okay, it needs more throttle, higher RPMs, 2-blade props instead of tri-blade.
What sort of flight time are you getting on it?
Well, this is the argument. Bruce's one will say go about 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes, whereas this can be as low as 1 minute, apparently.
As soon as you take off, it says land now. But you just ignore that. You ignore it until the whole thing reboots.
I was watching a video the other day, taking off, saying it says land now. Wait a minute.
Wow. So, I bought the lad who's now coming. He's funny enough. He's coming to England on the 16th on tour on the 16th of next month. But I bought him. I think were they QX 95s, QX 85, something like that. And my word, that was the most fun we've had with a little FPV quad. Actually, it was the right sort of size to go under the table and all that sort of thing.
I'm assuming
it could fly around.
I'm assuming when the light goes off on the charger, is it charged? What's the switch do on the charger, Bruce?
There's two settings. There's normal 4.2 volts and high voltage 4.35 volts. I think most of the batteries are the 4.35, but if you charge them to 4.2, they'll last a lot longer and don't puff so quickly.
Okay. And you're not really going to gain anything for that, are you?
And one of those batteries...
You get an extra 15 or 20 seconds of flight time, which is out of 2 minutes. That's quite a bit.
Cool. I remember we were talking 35 minutes on a Mavic 3.
What are those batteries' normal job in life? They surely can't just be made for that.
These
of course they are.
300 milliamp hour, Bruce, Gary.
Yep.
3.8 volts, 300 milliamp, 1.14 watt hours.
60C, according to mine.
Yes,
you want them to puff, actually. If you let them puff, then the hydrogen gas turns it into a little airship. And actually lighter than air once you puff the batteries enough.
60C at this. 10C would be 3 amp hour.
The numbers are just made up. You'll find people with rips in their pants because they're plucking the stuff out of their backsides and putting it on the labels to make it sound impressive.
Big numbers are always good. They're always good.
Actually, a little tale years ago, I was talking to a Hobby King person, and we're talking about lipos. And I said, I see you've got some new 95C batteries. And he said, yeah, well, our competitors have had 85C, so we just add 10 and stick it on the label. That's all they do. It is all just a marketing game, all the numbers on these batteries. It's terrible.
18 amps, apparently.
Which is pretty good considering the connector's only rated for about 4 amps or 5 amps.
That's a video right there, isn't it? That's a video.
Well, that's something right up your street, Ian.
It won't be much. When
we're going to go 18 amp off this one. Let's see what happens here.
Well, but they're fun things. They are fun things. That's for sure.
What is interesting is how pets react. My cats are petrified of these things. They run a mile. As soon as they hear it arm, they run away. Other people's cats chase them and knock them out of the sky. Amazing the difference in reaction.
Yeah, I did see one guy trained his dog to pick it up. So when he crashed, his dog would run off, pick it up in his mouth, bring it back to him.
So he was that lazy that he couldn't walk the 1 minute's worth of distance of flight away, whatever that was.
Turtle mode. Just flip it back up the other way and away you go. You don't have to go and walk for them.
I didn't see turtle mode in the settings. That's something I got to go and do. That's a point. I've just remembered that. So
that's the flipping it back up thing, isn't it?
Yes.
The thing I've got here has got a patent pending thing to do with that. You see these two here little doohickeys here?
Yes.
That's for when it lands in the water, it shorts out, turtle modes it. But he's got a patent on that. Those just two connectors. Well, apparently.
If it lands in the water, it goes into thrash about wildly mode.
Yeah.
The question is, though, is this the future of drones for the general public? That's the question, because with regulation getting more and more difficult, the reality is you can find yourself a little bit of space somewhere, an abandoned building or something, to go and whack it around there. It's weird how we started with all of the big longer range stuff, isn't it? And then we're now coming back to this.
But unless you're in Canada, the same rules apply. It makes no difference. It's just you don't have to register it, and so it shouldn't make any difference, should it?
Well, the question is, will you annoy less people with it if you're in the park?
It's not about annoying people. It's about whether you get fined for breaking the rules. And if the regulator is going to say, "Oh, we won't be prosecuting you for flying one of these," then I say to them, "Well, then change the damn rules to reflect that."
We had that's immediately brought to mind a thing that's come up down here with an airline pilot hired a Cessna or something. Hello there, Nicola. Hired a Cessna or something last week. May have had a few sweet sherries with a few dear friends. Went and flew it up and down a highway, scaring oncoming cars. Took out some power lines and then tried to blame it on the student pilot he had on board. And our authority's not going to prosecute him. It's not going to prosecute him.
They've not heard of pilot in command.
Well, quite so. But he seems to have got away with an amazing amount of things.
But Gary, you must acknowledge he had skin in the game.
Skin in the game. There you go. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Good evening to you, Nicola. Now, you seem to have changed room again.
I think he's in bed. He's laying in bed. Look at him. Yeah.
Still that same one.
The new place. Probably 11. Is it midnight by you or 11 o'clock by you? You same time zone as me?
Almost midnight.
Almost midnight. You're an hour ahead of me. Yeah, no, very late for you over there. Ian was just showing us, as Geeks has mentioned, the small thing in his hand, which is that little green thing there. Now, what I did want to really start off, and when we actually started, which I suppose we have, was, do we care about the Mavic 3 update? Isn't that just, I haven't bothered posting it because it's like, that's only making it do what they said.
13 minutes into the live cast, and you now talk about what you wanted to start off. What the hell have you been doing for 13 minutes, Gary?
Holding something small in my hand, Nicola.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very good question, Nicola. It's an Express LRS special, this.
The Mavic 3, it's a bit annoying that they've released this update because it's almost made my review entirely inaccurate and unnecessary.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, I was going to say you're going to get it back.
And almost all of my complaints, no, probably not fairly, almost all. Many of them have been addressed. Some of them have been addressed. It actually looks a really good step forward. They've addressed a lot of stuff. But in true DJI fashion, they've done things bizarrely. Like for the Cine guys, one of the big complaints was the only way to offload the video is by having it turned on and connected to your computer. And it uses lots of power to do that. So they've introduced this new USB power mode, which reduces the amount of energy it uses. Yet it functionally looks exactly the same. So from the drone point of view, the lights still flash the same. There's no indication, as far as I'm aware, anything has changed. So people are sort of saying, well, I'm pressing the mode, but nothing's happening. The drone is entering this low power mode, but there's just, you'd have thought they'd just turned the fans off, the LEDs off, and it sort of went into like a sort of just a quiet hibernation with maybe one glowing LED or something. But no. And so in true DJI fashion, everyone's going, well, this doesn't work. It actually does. You just can't tell any difference other than leaving it, and then you'll notice the battery doesn't go down. But yeah, I think it's a big update. It has somewhat ruined my review. I'm going to post the video. I haven't even finished editing it. Yeah. Cheers, DJ.
Well, it's good. It's all good for history, isn't it? The history of the machine. It'll go down in the annals of time as being that's what it was like.
It's the second time a dev team or someone has ruined. I literally did a review on a product last week, and I've ended up having to completely redo it because everything I said about complaint, and that was actually an Express LRS transmitter, was completely fixed in the new firmware. The night I filmed it like to go live the next day. And then I woke up in the morning and looked at my email and went, "You gits." Cheers for that one. Thanks for that. So, yeah.
And Express LRS is what you're flying as well, isn't it, Nicola? Sorry, I'm jumping back to that. I'm thinking about that. Isn't that what you're playing around with a lot now?
Me?
What? Yeah. What was that radio system? No, it's not, is it? It's that thing from.
It's not
this lot, isn't it?
Actually,
this
everybody
thing,
keeps pestering me about that Express LRS, and guess what? That's probably one of the main reasons I'm not gonna try it yet. There's just so much push. It's like with the vaccines. I don't get it.
He has to be different, doesn't he?
What do you use?
There's gotta be something wrong with it. If so many people want to try and get me to try it, there's got to be something.
It's like breathing and eating. Everyone's doing it. I wouldn't do that if I was you.
What RC link do you use, Nicola? What are you using, RC wise?
Actually, I'm pretty happy with the stock FrSky R9M system, and I haven't updated it for a few years now. It's running pretty good.
That's why you're happy.
Yeah, because you didn't update.
Yeah, no issues. Also, I haven't flown anything on 2.4. I don't remember for how long now. I'm also running the DragonLink system, both 433 and the 900 megahertz version, flashed for the 868 megahertz LEGO in Europe. And overall, I've been pretty happy with those. And when something works, changes. Tough. So from my point of view, the R9M system I have works absolutely brilliantly. So why would I want to risk it by flashing with ELRS or whatever?
That is the funny thing, because a lot of people say, you need to do this, but the reality for your flying, you're probably going to see no major benefit other than out and out range. So if you're not coming to the limit of what you're using, then you've not got a massive reason. I don't think 500 hertz is going to help you at all.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I haven't hit the limit on what I'm using. So what's the point of doing it? The only situation where I can see myself actually trying Express LRS is if I get a second R9M module, flash that one, and then get some of the dedicated ELRS receivers to test and see what all the hype is about. But I'm certainly not going to compromise the R9M receivers that I have, and I've been out to over 20 kilometers with zero issues, just so I can test it out. Last time I tried to update one thing to another, it still bricked. So I'm not sure I want to try it. But as long as I have your attention, also all of the viewers, I'm wondering
both of the viewers,
in my head, because I am thinking of a new project. So anybody know of any lightweight, high voltage racing copter ESCs, preferably not 4-in-1? And high voltage, I mean at least 9S.
When you say racing copter, what are the parameters you're looking for? You want braking and what sort of stuff, or just a 9S
I don't
ESC?
care. It's not going to be on a racing copter. So
talk to Rupert White. He knows, because he runs high cell counts in his super fast FPV models.
ADP could be worth a look.
Rupert White.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a Gully Bird.
I'm a Gully Bird. We had him on with his high-speed flights. I think didn't a speed controller manufacturer make some up for him or something in the end? Trying to remember the name of it. He did mention the name of that manufacturer, didn't he?
That must have been the week I was at the field, was it? Because I don't remember that.
You were on when it was ADP says. Oh, Ben would know. ADP says Ben. So
yeah, I was thinking ADP
or ADP. Which one is it?
Oh, Squishy's got ADP ATF3. Look there, ATM X class. Yeah, I was just going to mention that's S class, X class sort of stuff. There's a class.
9S.
It's not I.
Why are you running 9S?
Because
you can. Yeah, exactly. I mean, why not? It's got to be better. It's a big
because 10S would be silly. 10S would be silly.
I like to electrocute myself before my flights.
I want to build something very non-standard, but I've been doing the calculations, and running 6S the way I want to build it with that added redundancy is just going to put too much stress on the connectors. So because all of that will have to go through 2 connectors, and I want to try and reduce the current, so I would like to go from 6 to 8 or 9S, preferably 9. But whatever.
I've got a friend with a big extra that runs 12S. He runs 2 6S packs in series, and that's who did that one? It's the big red extra that appears on my channel sometimes. Big foamy, but it's 12S.
Okay, yeah, but I also need the ESCs to not be 100 grams each. So because I'm gonna be using a lot.
So you want heavy ESCs? You want heavier ones?
No, no. I'm not looking to add 2 kilograms of ESCs. More like. I rather like the T-Motors 35 amp ones. They're like 7 grams with cables. Sadly, they're only rated up to 6S, I think.
So you're running a 9S 1100 milliampere hour pack.
1100? Where'd you get that?
Well, you're not using much current. You won't need a very big battery, will you?
Actually, it would be at least 30 amps.
Oh, lithium ion DD's here. Good. I'm glad you're here, Chris. I'm gonna mention something in a minute. Yeah. So tell us more. It sounds like a VTOL. It sounds like a VTOL to me as well. But I'm sure he's not gonna say otherwise. We'll see. Now
there's a lot to figure out and a heck of a lot more to get done still. So.
I heard an amazing thing, which I can't go into too much detail because it's going to be a court case, we think, about somebody that is claiming to have redesigned that has failed to do some delivery flights, and the delivery flights are over a distance of 9 kilometers, and their Matrice M300 cannot do reliably the 1.5 kilo payload. It's actually 1.3 payload that is required to do this hop to an island, and they claim that they have designed a box to go on top that is aerodynamic and can increase the range enough to do that very thing. So
is it full of hydrogen or helium or something?
Oh yes, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. Yes, it could easily be. Yeah, that would do it, wouldn't it? But I am staggered. I thought a Matrice would easily lift 1.3 kgs, wouldn't it? No,
it's not designed for that camera payload.
It's not a camera. It's not a camera.
No, but that's what I mean. When it's designed, it's been. I would have thought with a dual camera, because the M300 is a dual camera setup. Let me just have a look what the weight of a H20 is, because it'll do a H20 below, and it should do that way. And what they're saying, it can't reliably fly that far.
9 kilometers, yeah.
9K on the batteries, that's probably the push, is the batteries, not.
Oh, you reckon? 9K with S at 9.2. There's a max 9K. Oh, Josh, that's a great answer there. 9.2. So what sort of endurance and stuff will you get now that at night? But anyway.
I suspect the weight is okay. I suspect the issue is
and it's hot and high in Africa as well. So it's not gonna. It's above 5,000.
Because the M300 is still a big bird, and it'll suffer the same problems as the others. Of its battery life will be the problem.
So, do we think we could conceivably have designed a special shaped box that would suddenly make it work?
I swear, the problem with the M300 is it's carrying a lot of junk you don't need. That's the problem with it. It's got that built-in computer module. It's got a lot of other stuff that's not needed.
Oh, okay.
Problem. It's over-designed for the task. If you want to fly something that long, the aircraft needs to be as light as possible.
And the thing that would concern me is if they're altering the aerodynamics, then the PID will change, and you can't tune them, can you?
No, that's also true. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either. So many things I hadn't thought about, especially the hydrogen. I just dismissed it as rubbish when somebody was talking to me about it today. But apparently, there are CFD images and all that sort of more battery.
Oh, it's got CFD. It must be true. That's almost as good as 3D rendering.
Exactly. It's got everything that's required. But I'm just staggered that people doing it. And it did allow me in this conversation to say to somebody, "Oh, I reckon I'd go to my local hardware store and get the bits to make something to do that task." That doesn't sound too hard to me. Why on earth which almost comes back to what Ian was saying. It's too heavy and it's the wrong thing for the task, isn't it? But it'd be nice as a community to design this thing for people that need it from the hardware store.
I'm just looking at the weight. So you're talking with the two TB60s is 6.3 kilos with a maximum takeoff weight of 9 kilos. So it's certainly capable of carrying the weight. There's no issues there. The issue is, I suspect, flight time. I suspect you're just going to come up against, they're saying 55 minutes, but 9 kilometers.
No,
were they trying to fly out 9 kilometers out and back?
Yeah. So I suppose so. It's 18 Ks.
Yeah. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, it's an aerodynamic box with extra lipos. Yeah, yes, quite possibly. But go on, mate.
Did you say on top of the M300?
On top of the M300.
So you want to upset the CG? So you want to make it top heavy?
Well, I don't know. I was just staggered when I heard this, and more people ripping off more people, and as the world goes round, I'm just staggered that people cobble things
that
together.
way you ensure that whenever it starts to crash to the ground, it will flip upside down and protect the gimbal.
Has built-in airbag.
Very clever. Yeah. Well, there's no gimbal on it. There's no camera payload on it. It's just the delivery box. But
it sounds like fixed wing. Fixed wing would be better for that kind of thing.
Oh,
Rotary wing, yeah.
All day long. But to go to the extent of making up some flyers renderings and graphics and this and that and all the other to prove nonsense, it just blows my mind that people do it.
No,
it blows my mind.
You're forgetting that those drawings means that someone will invest stupid money and blow it all because they saw that CAD drawing or that artwork or whatever. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. It's to bring that person in that believes it's a good idea to spend those millions of pounds to make a box.
That is exactly what it's for, but it's seeming like those might end up in court. So, but yeah, top heavy is not a problem.
Start though, is it, when someone's saying we're going to do a project and we've custom designed this? When there's the base, it's an off-the-shelf model. That's never a great start, is it?
I wonder. I mean, there's some great off-the-shelf models out there.
Yeah, but you're not designing a solution. How is this sold? If you're going to government going, we've got this total solution for you. Now this is, and that's where the issue is here, isn't it?
Well, oversold and under delivering by quite a large margin.
Speaking of long range, did you see, Vazi, the guy that's done the long range test on ELRS, the Australian guy? Did you see his test flight with his Believer?
No,
he planted it into the deck from a great height.
Was that like his? It was his first flight of it, wasn't it, or second flight?
I think it was the second flight. Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. Well, it's not the Believer's fault. It's not the Believer's
It's not.
Well, it was hardly any other aircraft's fault, was it?
No. Oh, well, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, but then let's bring around
I think
that
it was
whole
an issue with the left V-tail fin. Because something looked like it wasn't working back there. A few people pointed the finger at INAV, and I don't mind INAV being at fault at all, because it usually is quite often. But I don't think that's the case this time, though.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying, do you think that that plug-in tail popped out or something?
It didn't look like a stall. It looked like it was a controlled spiral, like something was causing it to spiral.
Stall at 80 kilometers an hour of an empty plane? I don't think so. The Believer empty would stall at probably under 40 kilometers an hour, and he was at 80 when the plane started to dip down into the left a little bit. He pulled on the elevator, which made the plane actually go up but also rotate to the right, which did not look like a stall to me, because it wasn't really spiraling. It was just trying to crash, and every command he gave it, when he included elevator, it would just go crazy. So
yeah, we're not saying aliens, but aliens.
Yeah.
But a Believer's stall speed is 11 meters a second or 12 meters a second off the top of my head. So
depends on how loaded it is.
Yeah,
he said that he said that he was doing testing because it was his second flight. He tried to stall during the first flight as well, which I can believe, because I've had my Believer deep stall on me, but I was high enough and I was able to recover it. I've not seen that aileron reversal thing that everybody's talking about, where the ailerons actually deform the wing and end up working in reverse or not working at all.
Yeah, I'm
not sure.
I've had my Believer tip stall and it rolled over on itself. So I was doing a nice coming into land, flying on the Hairlink, and I don't like the Hairlink because I don't feel like I've got enough travel, and it's very hard to work out where you need to be on the throttle with the Hairlink. I don't feel like a proper transmitter. You know what I mean? If you've flown it, and I had the throttle wrong, and I got too slow in a turn, and it just rolled over on itself, and I wasn't high enough to recover. It just went in. But the Believer was fine. It didn't care. No harm done.
This one cared a lot, didn't it? It cared all over the place. But that's the perils of flying too close. You should be further out, tens of kilometers further out. This won't happen.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look.
At least it's miles away.
At least a few kilometers up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But, when you're out testing them, there's always when you're testing them in the first few flights, as long as you're out of the way of everyone else, you've got to get used to what your aircraft does and how they behave. You've got to be able to push them a bit. And this is why it's great at model flying clubs or being out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one else around. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what you do because there's no one around to get hurt. And, pushing the aircraft is one of those things. Got to learn what it'll do.
I disagree. There's always someone around to get hurt.
Is that mowing the grass? Is that a blister from mowing the grass?
No. Actually, our town has got these really slippery pavers, and it rained on Monday for the first time in a long time. And I was running through town, and I slipped and went breakfast over the other end, and I just rolled. It was okay, but I had my car keys in my hand, and it jabbed right into that joint there, went right in, and boy, it really bled a lot.
The old bloke fell over. The old bloke.
Yeah, the old bloke. Oh, I get it. You hit next week. Oh.
Where's the video for YouTube? You make a killing on the video.
I nearly made a killing on the footpath.
Yeah, you will by the time you finish suing them.
Yeah, talking about.
Actually, that's a good point because we've had these pavers for many years, and so many old people have fallen over and broken their hips and things and hurt themselves, and they've done nothing about it. They're ripe for a lawsuit. But in New Zealand, we have this universal cover insurance thing, which is like a no-fault liability. So if you do fall over and hurt yourself, all your medical bills are paid, but nobody's held responsible. That really encourages good practice.
Oh, I can imagine.
So do you have like a national health service over there, or do you pay health insurance?
you pay through your taxes and you have like free healthcare. But if you have an accident and you need like income-related compensation and other monetary considerations or specialist treatment, then we have ACC, accident something or other, any commission, and that covers you. And that's a separate tax that's put on your earnings. So it's about 2% or something. It's quite a bit of money. I've never claimed on it. But some people live on it. Some people have had accidents and they've lived the rest of their lives. My wife, when she had her accident, she was teaching. And so she ended up with about 3 years of income-related compensation because she couldn't work anymore. It's quite a good system. But the fact that there's no fault on the part of whoever's responsible is a bad thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Now I've got to learn these things because it's the countdown. The clock is ticking down on my ability to go and live and work in New Zealand. I'll be too old soon.
Yeah, we've got to remember though that the human malware's run rampant in this country. We had 25 new cases yesterday. It's just everywhere now, everywhere.
God. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Next week, it's official. As of next week, it doesn't exist in the UK. It just vanishes. Next week, it all just goes.
Well, our Prime Minister cancelled her wedding. She cancelled her wedding as a show of solidarity with the people. How good is that? Mind you, she's getting married to a guy called Gaylord, so I don't know what that goes in there.
It does rather. It all puts Boris.
From the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Anthony's saying glad he stuck with this Sky Hunter. The believers are really good. They are really, really, really good.
They're really good, but here's the thing. I tried to stall the Flying Dragon, and it doesn't budge. And it is heavier than what the believer was when it stalled.
And does it have the same amount of room for fat fingers like mine to put gear in the fuselage and nice little hatches and all the other stuff?
Oh yeah,
it does.
Plenty of room. Yeah.
Anthony's saying who's it? Anthony's saying Sky Hunter. I knew a guy that had one of those, loaded up with batteries. Man, it's so heavy and it's such a wide fuselage. It is a pig of a thing to launch.
Well, that's as soon as you start getting over. Yeah, you get over 5 kilos and anything is hard to launch. You have got to be. The launch does become an issue.
Trebuchet is the only solution.
Trebuchet, absolutely. Right. So where I want to let's
the
try.
The funny thing is
when
I got the MFE fighter from MFE, and I don't think they had, when they sent it to me, I don't think they had the veto stuff ready for it because I asked about it, and they said no. We don't have it. It's just a regular plane. And I'm like, okay, sure. But, it says maximum takeoff weight, I think it was 11.5 kilograms. And they're like, well, 10 kilograms can be easily hand launched. And I'm like, what the?
Only if you're a mega human like Ron.
Recently, I've been hand throwing the Flying Dragon at just over 6 kilograms. And I get winded just by holding the fucking plane while I do all the pre-flight checks. And I really have to toss it hard for it not to... Well, it doesn't really dip stall, but it still dips a little bit on takeoff. Yeah. And that's 6 kilograms. I can't imagine what 10 kilograms would feel like, but I have a suspicion it's not going to take off, right out of my hand like a paper airplane.
Yeah.
I can't see.
Sorry,
I was going to say that what is it? The believer is about 5 kilos, 5.5, and even that. So as you say, you do your pre-flight, and I don't know about you, Nikolai. Do you do the shake and throw? Shake, let the motor start, let it.
No, I just flip the switch. I flip the switch.
Okay.
Pause and go.
It spools up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you wait for it to spool up, of course, before you chuck it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't get how 10 kilos has got no chance, has it? It's literally just.
Well, it would with enormous motors, wouldn't it? You could put a no. Yeah,
comes with its own hill for elevated position launching.
I was about to say that.
That's just a trick, isn't it?
The fighter is 2.5 meter wingspan, so it's got quite a bit more wing compared to the Believer and a bit more compared to the Flying Dragon. And it is also, deeper, like bigger. It's
area.
wider and it's deeper, so more wing chord, and the profile looks pretty decent. But
yeah.
But these are all so much easier to launch than flying wings. Large flying wings are a real pain in the backside to launch, and that's I don't have any big large flying wings. I did actually. I had one Discovery Disco. What is it? The Hobby King Discovery or whatever it was wing. That was almost impossible to launch. Too big. You just can't. You can't do it with a one arm launch. And if you do it 2 arms, the prop rakes across your face and leaves you looking all like a sausage. There's no value in those.
I do love flight controls for one reason, because you just tell it to shake and throw. So when you've got a big wing or something like the Optera, which is 2.2 span, it is almost a flying wing. It's not quite. Granted, it's a Delta, probably more. But, being able to shake, throw, hold, wait for the motor to spool up and just chuck it, it saves so much hassle versus, just a radio control, transmitter, no flight controller, big aircraft. This is now a bit of a mess somewhere. I do prefer flight controllers that can just chuck it and let it go.
No, it does make a big difference, doesn't it? The what I wanted, like, Ian's going to fly that for us live shortly. We're going to get an indoor flight demonstration. It's going to be great. Yeah, that's what he just said. He didn't have his microphone on that, but he was agreeing with me.
So he's going to recreate the dancing on the ice shot. Is that what he's going to recreate for us?
This is one thing I'm not sure about. Ian might know. With ELRS, do the flight controllers handle 500 hertz updates?
Over SPI, because they're SPI based. I don't know what the packet rate is of SPI.
Well, even over S-Bus. What about S-Bus?
No, it's only 500 hertz.
If you use
none
SPI.
of them have S-Bus. They all have Crossfire up. Well, CRFS. But the biggest holdback to 500 hertz is the radio. So you can only have it with the custom firmware on the radios anyway. So that's only the TX16S running. What's the other one? I've forgotten what it's called.
Edge.
No, Edge TX. Yeah, you can only get it on that. There's even talk of faster than that. When you do look at the packet rates, there's some nice testing by UAV Tech actually on the end-to-end. And even though Express LRS is running 500 hertz, Ghost is getting really close, even at much lower rates, 330 hertz. Because Express LRS is doing it's not frequency hopping at 500, it frequency hops every 4 packets. So it's not frequency hopping every packet as well. It's doing some other magic to actually, because I think frequency hopping at 500 hertz would be a bit difficult.
You wouldn't have time to stabilize your PLLs and things and get a decent. It's interesting though, because it's a law of diminishing returns. I mean, I can fly good old PWM long wire, and it's more than fast enough for me, and that's 28 milliseconds or something, or up to 40 milliseconds. It's like, how many people are actually going to notice or benefit or need those really high frame rates? It's like, really?
It does. Yeah. It's an interesting question. Who can detect what? Who can, like, I am not a pilot that is going to tell you the difference between 250 and 500 hertz. I'm not going to be the pilot that probably, in reality, I might be able to say, oh, I can feel it's different, but I'm certainly not going to sit here and say, oh, it's better. Does it make those very best people notice? I think there's so many things involved. There's so many different, because you got a mega board at the moment, which is delivering the packets to the module faster, not just from the radio, because there's so many links in this chain. You've got the data from the stick. So is that analog resistance or is that Hall effect? Then you've got that data being sent to the module. Then you've got that being transmitted over the airwave, and then you've got the receiver side. So is it Crossfire, SPI? There's more links in this than just adding 500 hertz.
And it depends how far away you're flying.
Yeah.
300 nanoseconds per foot propagation of light speed.
It's going to make a difference. Now, it's especially at 10K. Can I notice 500 hertz at 10 kilometers? Well, let's see.
It's even more important for long range then, isn't it? But it's crazy.
You mentioned the sticks on this thing here. The sticks are horrible, and they're just horrible.
Just upgrade the smartphone; they'll be fine.
Exactly.
There's a lot to it, and the reality is, there is an argument. Some people have said they prefer what will always be better is synchronized. And this is the problem HD video is actually coming up against, is you have a camera that's refreshing, you have a video link that's transmitting that, and then a goggles which is refreshing, and they're not synced. And this is now becoming the war ground for digital HD FPV, that you've got this disjointed behavior between what the camera and the transmitter is doing. So for instance, HD0 is just transmitting what it gets from the camera, and then the goggles may be displaying that at a different rate and maybe even caching one frame of data.
That doesn't make sense though, really, because when you look at it with analog, it's synced via the sync pulses.
Yes.
With digital, it's also synced via the. You can easily sync that information. I mean, why would you not do that?
It's not being done right now. That's
unless you see tearing in the frame, it's not going to be an issue.
And HD, there is this quirk in HD0 is having to play catch up every now and again because of this sync issue. There's like a tearing, and you'll almost have a skip where, and this is where this HD0 goggles may be something very interesting because it's their own. They have the opportunity to sync it end to end, because every goggles will behave different. Every display technology behaves different. LCD, OLED. There's so many links in the chain here. But the reality is, where's the end of where the human detects it? So where's the point that, you know, it does it matter if it's 30 milliseconds or 5 milliseconds if you can't tell the difference?
I don't think it matters here, except perhaps for Nicola. Most of us measure our reflexes and things with a calendar. We don't care.
I measure mine in
kilometers. Trust me, I'm not going to be able to tell that difference either.
Have you used a wireless?
It's bragging rights, isn't it? Down the club, it's bragging rights. My transmitter's an nth of a second faster than yours at doing stuff. It's just bragging.
To be fair, though, I did notice a difference between PWM and S-Bus. That was quite a marked difference, but that was quite a massive, a huge change of thing. But after that, going to Crossfire and things, I sometimes think maybe I can feel the difference, but then I think some days, no, I can't. So I think it is. It's a law of diminishing returns.
And I think by the time you've detected it, you've already adapted to it, and you're already comfortable with, you know, as you say, you know, if you fly fixed wing, delay is just natural, isn't it? You know,
it's called inertia.
Yeah, exactly. There's other things at play, isn't there, than stick response?
I think the very best FPV pilots, I think what has helped them with HD, you could argue, is it looks so much better, so they can see things better, and that's a really good argument. Do you know what I mean? If you can, the more you see, the closer they can get to the gates, the faster they can
upgrade now. Crash in HD. Woohoo! Much better picture. It does. You can see every blade of grass as it comes towards you.
But the reality is, you know, does really 200 hertz, 500 hertz? There is this sort of arms race of digital RC control links right now, and it is an arms race because you've got this open source dev community, of which Wes, you were talking about earlier, is a major part of. He's a dev on the Express LRS team, and they are literally pushing things forward at an astonishing rate. It's just improving all of the time. And then now there's even a pull request in to bring in FLRC, which if that comes into it, then God knows where we're going to be with it. And you know, but it's not over. And when you actually look at the numbers, Ghost is interesting. The numbers are very, very good. I wouldn't rule Immersion RC out completely.
And the thing is, they all need to come up with something new that you must have in order to get you to spend money on something you don't need. It's like, you know, everyone's really quite happy with what they've got. But if you're not as good as the guy next door because he's got a millisecond on you, then you've got to upgrade. And manufacturers must be having a hell of a time at the moment coming up with ideas to get you to part with your money. I mean, Toolkit RC rolls out a new charger or something every 5 minutes. What's that, Nicola?
10 gram, 12 CSCs, or why not make it 20s?
Well, yeah, I mean, 100S. I mean, why are you fooling around? I mean, it's going to be double digit something.
Yeah,
you know, stop playing.
And as long as we're talking, I actually have another question. see if anybody's actually tried this.
Is it here for Q&A?
Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, I'm giving the questions. You're giving the answers, though. Has anybody tried running a few D-Shot receivers off of the same signal output?
ESCs, you mean? Yeah. Multiple D-Shot ESCs off the one receiver, or one set of pulses. I've no idea.
One channel.
D-Shot.
Like you would do PVM for ailerons.
Is D-Shot bidirectional?
Yes, but only if you turn it on. So in theory, straight D-Shot should be fine. I would
should work as long as it's not
just have a
bidirectional. As long as it's not the bidirectional mode. Okay, that might be interesting.
Okay, the plot thickens, so it's a big multi-engine 9S.
Yeah, because bidirectional D-Shot is RPM filtering, which is a separate option altogether. So standard D-Shot shouldn't be. The only thing I don't know is there a synchronization between the ESC and the flight controller, and how forward?
Do racing ESCs actually still support PVM? Because by the looks of it, they're somewhere in space now, and all of that ancient technology is left behind.
There's not a lot of PPM on. It's there, but it's not. I think you can still do PWM, but I don't think you'd want to. What are you building, Nicola?
Something that I'm not building anything yet, just figuring out the parts, but something that I'm hopeful will stay in the air and not.
Is that a copy of the Quran on your bedside table?
No.
There we are. I4CD is telling us this. Well, we look forward to this build with interest. And will you be parking it on top of a snowy mountain? But anyway, that's another thing.
Well, hopefully
6 months of the year.
But yeah, no more than 6 months. Been there 3 years now, isn't it? 3-4 years. That thing. How long's that thing been on top of the mountain?
Well, outputs on the flight controller probably are D-Shot, if I'm asking, or capable of being.
Yeah, well, we've admitted to a flight controller now. You have, so yeah, I wasn't sure that you were going that way. Now, what else did I want to sort of bring into this? I wanted to bring up the fact that there have been loads and loads and loads of jobs for grown-ups coming up in the news, which I think is quite interesting. It shows that perhaps the industry is growing up, and it is for, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of them for big platforms that aren't from the DJI stable. So that's also quite interesting, as stuff above 10 kilos in weight. So the industry seems to be gaining a little bit of traction, grown-up traction now. So I'm afraid I don't count the Mavic 3 as a grown-up commercial option, as a lot of people do. So I don't know. Does anyone want to?
But didn't the Mavic 3 come with epaulets and a badge? Didn't we find that out on Twitter?
Yeah.
Doesn't it come with firmware issues?
Oh, it came with the ability to fly near football stadiums. Yeah. Did we all see that in England? Was it Brentford in England?
That was the Mini 2.
Was that a Mini 2? Oh gosh, yeah. It must have been.
So much for DJI's geofencing, eh? They should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, no, it wasn't DJI's geofencing that was, well, kind of was, kind of wasn't. So NATS had kind of updated their thing, but DJI does not update fly zones very often. And it was pointed out to them, and I think within 24 hours, it's become a zone that you have to request for the unlock, checking that you know the local laws. So they've changed it very quickly. They jumped straight on it.
Another reason not to buy a DJI.
But doesn't it speak to the fact that the manufacturers shouldn't be the ones providing the aeronautical data?
Well, they shouldn't. And
Altitude Angel provides it for DJI, don't they?
But they didn't provide that. There was something with that. I can't remember the story with that. There was a story with that. I think it was on Altitude Angel.
Isn't it DJI take their data set but they have no input on what they choose to implement, if I recall. So they provide base data, and it's down to the manufacturer to choose how they implement that data.
Yeah, but they hadn't done an update since Brentford had become part of the Premier League.
4 months or something.
It's a half-hearted attempt at keeping regulators appeased, and it's always been out of date, and it's always not done what it should have done. It's not a true attempt at safety. It's
if they had flown the Autel Nano, that would really put the cat amongst the pigeons, because that thing doesn't have any UK geozones. But
all of them. But the bottom line is, if you're flying an aircraft, it's up to you to know the airspace in which you are flying. It's down to you, not the manufacturer.
And that raises a really important issue. If you provide a service like that, then your users rely on that service. Therefore, you should be liable if that service does not provide the results that it purports to provide. So really, DJI should be held accountable for that, not the operator of the drone. He could say, my drone says it won't let me fly where I'm not allowed to fly, so why am I in trouble? Why don't you blame the manufacturer?
It's a good argument.
It'll always come back to the pilot in command. That's the way aviation
Then if it's
works.
pilot in command, let the pilot in command make the decision, not the manufacturer.
Absolutely, yes. So then the Autel way of doing things is perhaps better, because it gives you the opportunity to do that, and then it is your fault if you fly somewhere where you
But it was a safety thing anyway. Well, instead of these people chasing around this, they had this 450-gram football and bouncing it off their heads. That's really dangerous. Having a 250-gram drone in the air is much safer.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been this, isn't it? If you're going to provide data, it has to be accurate. And the argument is DJI, by providing inaccurate data, is actually making people do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do, because people are looking what their drone says and goes, oh, that says it's fine, I'm allowed to do what it does. And that's been this argument time and time again, that their method of providing inaccurate data actually leads to more safety concerns, not less.
What is it the saying? Is there's only one thing worse than no data, and that's bad data.
Bad data, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I shudder when I see these maps and how wrong they are, how very wrong they are. But then, as Altitude Angel has unearthed here, or as we did, as I've said it multiple times, National Park right behind me here, if you actually look how it's promulgated, it's underground. According to the official South African Civil Aviation Authority document. So, even the
I've seen the way you fly, Gary. That still applies.
Yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely. I can find a way. So it's another thing that needs an overhaul in a modern digital sky. It's a really good look at how things are promulgated. I don't know if it's in the comments, but one of our viewers actually works in the office that does some of that in the UK for the RAF in London. So that sort of thing needs to be properly looked at in 2022, not doing it like we did in the 50s still, which is what's happening. I see there's another company selling, I'll put an article out today, selling data to the UTM industry, and that would be is that the new 3 there you got there? What's he got there?
No, I just wanted to show people why it was the Mini. Brentford, and how we could ID it was the Mini. It's because just here at the front, there's a little LED on the Mini, and this is what gives away the Mini. So this is the Mavic 2 Pro, and as you can see at the front, there's no LED. So you can eliminate that, and then the Air 2S is the same roughly as this, no LED at the front. And if you watch the video and you do see it, and you do wonder what craft it is, this is the little thing that gave it away what it was. The LED just here. This was the giveaway. Just so everyone knows.
I can't get excited about it.
No,
I can't get excited about it other than the airspace data needs to come from the regulator, and it needs to be correct.
But should we really be so worried? There's 249 grams of frangible plastic up in the air. And it's like, I just, if it was a Matrice or something, you could understand, but it's a little toy drone, and people have died in stadium fires and panic runs and things. It's the least of the worries that people have is a drone flying overhead. I just, Not good enough. Regulation must be proportionate to risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So what else have we seen this week, boys? What else is occurring?
Drones have been banned in the UAE. You can't fly your recreational drone in Dubai because you could have a bomb on it. But you can still drive your Toyota pickup with the anti-aircraft gun on the back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you know
God
why
for that.
is now? Because they actually got bombed that way.
Yes.
But those drones were not multi-rotors. It was a fixed wing. It was actually a cruise missile. It was a home-built cruise missile, which is not quite the same as a recreational drone.
You know, doesn't take much to put kinetic charges on a drone and just drop it out of the sky. So
yeah, but by the same token, you can load a lot of C4 on the back of a pickup truck and park it in a convenient place. It's a lot more effective.
Here's the terrorist tip of the day. Today's terrorist tip: how to load 200 kilos
even worse.
in the back of a pickup truck.
In the next episode, repurposing pressure cookers.
So here's what's really crazy then. So a rucksack, any rucksack you can go and buy anywhere, and you can put things in it, has been used far worse than anything else. But there's no regulation that says a rucksack has to be see-through because they've been used for bad reasons. Amazing,
in Japan and the trains. Underground, the sarin attack, that was how they did that, wasn't it? In the underground in Japan?
Well, backpacks have been used around the world, Bruce, to do bad things. But they're not see-through, they're not regulated.
They're even built into ELRS. ELRS has got a backpack option.
When you set this up, Gary, do you remember this actually being watched by MI5?
No. There was a time before the security forces watched this, and any drone footage from Ukraine. Where we got a comment up, block button. There you go. Very good. we've got a voice from Ukraine in the comments. I get 11:57. No, not yet. No, I can't talk about that. No, I can't talk about that. No, MI5. Good evening to you. Good evening, Cheltenham. I hope it's going well in your brand new building there. God.
So you were saying about jobs, Gary. You were saying about
jobs. There's lots of jobs. There's lots of jobs out there, which I think is great. I think,
really?
there's lots and lots of jobs.
Skilled 3D renderist required.
Absolutely. No, engineering jobs and that sort of thing. Let me just go to a website I've heard about and have a look at the jobs section. And
so engineering, is that designing new stuff then, or is it copying other people's?
Oh, well, look, come on. At the end of the day, a multi-rotor is only 2 sticks and 4 motors. So,
or more. 4 motors or more.
Or more. Oh my word!
3 motors or more. Actually, it could be a tricopter. It could be 3 motors or more.
Oh no, the site is up. Oh, thank goodness. Just took a long time to arrive. So having a look now, I'll put the link in here. What is on the table? No, it was about a month ago. It was nearly always delivery drone stuff, and the last couple of weeks is lots of job at Wingtra, Kitty Hawk, Swoop Aero, UKCAA, Involi, full stack engineer, Reliable Robotics. They've bought an airline, Skyports, Elroy, CAA again. So it's proper grown up.
Did I see someone bought London Heliport?
Oh, they did, didn't they? Skyports bought London Heliport, which is quite amazing. And I wonder if they'll get rid of those fees or increase the fees for people that are actually flying there.
That will be interesting because, now they're a drone company that's taking it out. Well, they won't.
Is that the safety meeting? There's no fees. It's just a safety meeting before you fly that you have to pay 200 quid for or something. Well, did I see that somewhere?
That was my East Midlands Airport one.
Yeah. So tell us about that then, Mark.
So it arrived in my inbox from someone I know in the industry. It wasn't me that was going to get charged this fee. And it says, what the hell? And I says, right, they're going to have to go to the CAA and fill in a airspace denial form, and you're going to rip me off. But basically, They want to do a flight near East Midlands Airport. I don't know exactly how close it is. They didn't give me that information. I know what they do, but I won't say. And they wanted to go and fly and inspect this item. And East Midlands said, actually, because you're so close to the airfield, blah, blah, we're going to have we'd like to do a safety meeting on this. We're going to charge you £200, non-refundable. And there's no guarantee we will say yes, even if we did, there would be limitations, blah, blah, blah. Astoundingly, £200, non-refundable.
But
no guarantees.
But they haven't denied the use of that airspace. They're just having a meeting, and you got to pay for the biscuits.
Yeah, I mean, part of me says he should charge them £200 back or £250 back for having to submit to go through the paperwork of the meeting.
Makes you wonder if they've got away with it before with operators. Some have just said, "Oh, all right, paid their money," and they think they're going to keep on getting away with it.
Well, I've heard different things. So if you're on the outer edge of the FRZ, I have heard they don't charge. It sounds like he does want to be quite close to the airfield. I have heard from other people saying, actually, if you're on the outer and you're not in the runway protection zone or anything, they've not been charged. So I just don't know exactly where this is. But regardless, it's still a lot of money and it's ridiculous. Regardless, it's just bonkers.
Airfields are a law unto themselves in a lot of ways, and that's again there's something that needs to be revised for a modern digital.
But is he outside the 4.6 kilometre FRZ?
He's inside it.
Oh well, if he's inside, he's screwed.
Well, other people. Well, no, other people. Ian,
it's the place to go on your holidays, isn't it? Pay those brothel fees. It's great.
So other people I know that are flying there have said, no, we've not been charged. I just don't know. Like I say, I don't know the exact specifics of how close to the actual runway he is, but so other people are flying inside the FRZ and not been charged. And Heathrow's doing something interesting as well at the minute. So if you fly in Heathrow's FRZ, they're asking for remote ID. But it
isn't
doesn't
that part of Richard? Isn't that part of Richard's trial?
I don't think it matters what it is. So it gets quite interesting because they're saying, oh, you've got to provide us with remote ID. Well, it doesn't exist. There's no standard. If you're not flying, if you're flying something that's not DJI, then obviously remote ID is completely pointless. 110%. Whoever's advising Heathrow is not doing a good job in that respect. And then secondly, that Heathrow have been asking for the flight logs to say that you've been flying here after the flight. And I've told several people you do not have to do that. Do not give them your flight logs. And one of them, yet again, does critical infrastructure and says, you do not hand over your flight logs. Just, tell them you don't have remote ID on the aircraft because it doesn't exist. There's no standards. See if you can get it that way. I think they did get to fly, but they wanted the flight logs that says you do not hand over your flight logs. You're flying critical infrastructure. That has to remain top. That's secret squirrel stuff. So they get no access to that afterwards. But yeah, Heathrow's doing a couple of bits like that.
It's Gatwick, isn't it? I'm wrong. It was Gatwick where it's
Gatwick's doing the UTM's trials.
Yeah, that's Gatwick's that's doing the trial, isn't it? That you can get your permission through Altitude Angel.
But Gatwick Heathrow is doing it slightly differently. They're asking for remote ID, which there's no standard for. There's nothing set out. I'm assuming they mean the SSID. So whoever's told them remote ID doesn't understand the difference.
You haven't got an opinion on remote ID, have you? There's no. You have no concerns, worries, or thoughts about it in any way.
People can burn in. The people that are so-called experts about.
There's no need for the pilot station remote ID anymore because we got the nanites and the 5G. We're good, mate.
Well,
they know where we are.
I was just clicking around on this, but I don't see anything. Nuts.
Yeah, so it is kind of interesting. Oh, someone's going to have a flight.
There we are. There
There
we
goes
are. That's very much your. That's very much your. Oh, look, there's another one there. Building inspection. Do you know that's just about where those people were arrested, isn't it? They lived down here somewhere. This is the housing estate they lived in. It was down here.
No.
Yeah, it was. It was down here somewhere. It was either over here off Martyrs Avenue, which I remember. That's why I remember, because at the time I thought that's appropriate, Martyrs Avenue, and then it was in here somewhere. So that's your.
Is it a synagogue because it's round?
Yeah, that must be it. But that must be. Oh, look at that one. Is that another one? To obtain images for CGI renders, 10 minutes. How about that for the end?
It must be a professional drone company, CGI renders.
CGI renders, exactly. But no, that's put it in the context of Mark's story, isn't it? Really, if Gatwick, with its known history, can allow somebody to fly there, i.e., at the end of the runway, I wonder what the safety meeting looked like for that.
Yeah, I mean, it does go to show, And if you look at East Midlands,
up here somewhere, isn't it? Up in the
north. So it's Nottingham. Head towards Nottingham.
There's Nottingham.
So it's just south, isn't it? Of Nottingham somewhere.
Here it is. Is this? No, that's Castle Donnet. Is that it? East Midlands, yeah.
Midlands. There we go. So somewhere in that circle, he wants to fly, and they want to charge him £200 for a meeting to say yes or no. Where it goes to prove Altitudes Angels UTM seems to be the better way to do it, but they wouldn't get their money.
Crazy, isn't it? Oh, look, there's a job to the north. Hang on, that's got to be. Oh, so no, searchlight display. So this is Altitude Angel, works for the whole world, and we quite often give Richard a hard time.
We love my house.
We
do love him, really. We do love Richard, really.
I think actually we won't do my house. Let's go over to let's do Bruce's house. What does New Zealand share with them, Bruce? Where's your house? Your house is
not very much. My house is further up, there, just above that lake.
There it is. It's here somewhere.
There we are. Look.
There we are.
There's something.
And there's something there. The hospital.
There's a helipad and an airfield.
There we are. What
was that big? What was? Oh, it was just because you're zooming out.
TRA. What for?
Why is that restricted? Just says the generic warnings and things.
No, it's from the surface up to 7,000 feet.
And that's over you. That's right over you. TRA. When is it? What's happening there then?
Blue's vertical limit. Temporary flight
active Wednesday 26th till Thursday 27th.
Haven't heard about that one. What does the NOTAM say?
There it is. It says temporary restricted area, NZR 291.
It doesn't say why, does it? Bizarrely.
Doesn't say why. No. Well, maybe you've got to go into that a little bit more. But that's no good, Richard. With that zooming it out, there's a pretty huge area. So what happens in the middle of this circle, Bruce? What's in there somewhere?
Nothing to speak of.
And then similarly over here.
There was a low altitude flight planned to Taupo, which is that lake just in the bottom right hand corner, by the military this morning, but they weren't going any further than Taupo, so there's no point in restricting airspace further up the country.
And this one is Coromandel. But you must know about that. That must be a standard bit of airspace, isn't it? Anyway.
I don't care. I fly under 400 feet. If anyone's down there, that's their problem.
And if you're in America, it does all that, whatever that thing's called, where they...
Lank,
that's it. Does that Lank thing as well. Going Norfolk, there's a air base here, isn't there? There's something there. Naval base. There we are. So you can do your Lank thing here. You can get your different thing. And this is the one where the Chinese have brought all the buildings up against here. all the big buildings, and
They
got
have
all their gear. Yeah, they have. They have just about every building going into there. Right, enough of that. So what else was secret research there? Oh, is that where Chris? That's exactly what I think it was. Just visiting Bruce. So what else? Good evening, Philip, as well. Gosh, the stars are in the comments there. Has anyone else seen anything else this week that we should talk about?
Yeah.
Go ahead, over.
Not the dog with the sausage.
Recently, I've handled a few of the Orange Cube autopilots, and I noticed all of them have that little antenna sticking out of the baseboard.
ADSB.
And I assume that's the ADSB, whatever thing. But I wonder, does that thing only receive, or does it also transmit?
Only receives.
Only receives, and the idea is that every plane out there is transmitting its location, so it can do avoidance.
That would be nice. That would be nice in a perfect world, but that's not.
Because the reality here is that only the airlines at 10 kilometers up are doing the transmitting. Everyone that flies below that is not. Luckily for me, that low altitude piloted traffic is pretty much non-existent in this country, so I don't have an issue with that. But I found it interesting that they have that built into the, I don't know whether it's the baseboard or the autopilot, but it was interesting. But is that available as a separate module to add to autopilots that don't have it built in?
Yes, it is from UAvionics. And Wingcopter winning 16 million. Yeah, I saw that as well. Wolf.
Makes it quite useless for my country, though.
Helicopters tend to have ADSB more than planes, from what I've discovered, like air ambulances. They tend to have that kind of thing fitted more than the Cessna or something. So if you want to avoid helicopters, I don't know what it's like where you are, Nikolai. It could be completely different. But over here,
I maybe see one a year.
No, right, okay.
Annoyingly, around here, the ag helicopters don't use their, or they turn it off, or they don't have it, because we have ag helicopters, quite big ones, squirrels and things flying all around the place. No ADSB on them, but the rescue helicopters do, and so does some of the more commercial or the passenger operations.
Yeah.
And for those that are wondering, this is what we're talking about. It's this antenna here, and as Philip has said, it is free. You don't pay anything on these standard carrier boards.
Oh, can he send me one?
Send it free.
Yeah, just send me the antenna. It's free.
Just the antenna. Yeah, you can have the antenna. I'm sure he'll send you the antenna. I'm sure he will. Yeah, I'm sure it's. So I think it's almost a philosophical question. This, isn't it? Really, should we all fit remote ID, or should all manned aircraft fit something that will help?
Those who have the most to gain should pay the bill. But the thing is, what does it do with the ADSB info, though? Because DJI is absolutely freaking useless. As soon as it detects an aircraft in your vicinity, it doesn't tell you where it is, doesn't tell you how high, it doesn't give you any other information. So you get so many false alerts, you just ignore them. And then some guy comes along at 400 feet and smacks you out of the sky. And DJI say, oh, you didn't listen to the alert. No, you know cries wolf all the time.
So you know what the solution to all of that is? Don't fly up to 400 feet, because from my experience, at least in this country, the few times that I've seen a piloted aircraft, and I'm really saying few times over a number of years, I can probably count them on one hand. They've all been under 400 feet. So my solution is a few kilometers up. It's free. Nobody's up there. All of them are down low, close to the ground. So no chance.
And the higher you go, the more space there is anyway, because it's a sphere. As you increase the size of it, the area increases, so you're less likely to hit things the further up you go.
The higher you go, the safer.
Now you triggered all of the flat earthers.
So what's really good about the Cube, and here you go, you can enable manned vehicle avoidance, as Gary has got it right there. You can actually tell the Cube, you can tell it certain commands to go, take actual actions to avoid the other aircraft if it detects one within a certain radius.
Is there a parameter for that?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
Basically,
4,753.
And now the money question: does it have the reverse option to tell it to home in on that signal on its own?
You just use a negative in front of the parameter. That's all you do. It's quite handy. Just set it to disarm or arm or something.
Oh God, you sods!
That would be pretty useful.
You want the infrared homing attachment.
Okay.
No, it's look, as Philip says, it's free. It's free to you. So, maybe it's of use, maybe it isn't. I certainly know of some projects where just having
avoid mountains.
That on the side, UAV, they knew that name, UAVionics, and I know of a regulator that was completely fooled by that being on the side. Anyway, about the capability of the aircraft. So yeah, it didn't cost you anything. So good news, happy days.
It
cost you the cube. Cost you the cube carrier board. Yeah, true. Yeah. True.
Okay. Anybody know the difference between the orange cube and the purple one? Because there's like
different color.
2.5 times difference in price, and when comparing the specs,
there is nobody in the chat that knows anything about the cubes. There are no cube experts anywhere to be found.
There's no difference in the specs.
Where's my free antenna, Philip?
The purple is substantially different. The purple has no onboard vibration isolation. So if you look at it, it's much shorter in height. So the height difference
makes it twice as expensive.
No, well, you've got triple IMUs on the standard cube.
It's half as cheap.
You don't have 2 barrows. You don't have all of the additional. I'm trying to think what else.
Wait. The purple one is even more than twice as expensive as the orange.
No, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, not officially. It's not really used now. Were you looking at the pricing of the purple one?
And the purple one's more for rovers.
It's for ground-based applications.
Okay, hold on.
Do you mean the blue one? Do you mean
you're talking about the blue, not the purple?
Okay, yeah, the purple one is the. Okay, yeah, the blue one. All right.
US manufactured, same unit, US manufactured. You're paying for the American hands on that one. You should be
probably Mexicans. Really.
That's the only difference from the orange one.
The cost of manufacturing is substantially higher. The cost of labor and manufacturing is substantially higher in the US.
You want the Paisley one from AliExpress?
You have no reason to have the blue one. You have no reason to.
Why would then it's actually 3 times more expensive than the cube in Europe? Why would anybody stock both in the same shop in Europe? What the?
It depends if you need something that is US manufactured, or what's the exact term, Gary? I can't remember.
Well, that's why I was asking if Philip's got the time to come in and
Philip has also said he still loses money on the blues at that. There you go.
Wow.
Why do you think nothing's made in America? Making America great again.
Well, I have the QAV equivalent of those, the X7 Plus, and
but that's not US manufactured. So you want to be looking at the orange only. That's what you want, Nicola. For anything you need, the orange is the best device.
Yeah.
I can't get this. I can't get the flipping.
The black is all right. It's just.
But the QAV one actually is, as far as I can tell, a pretty decent, I don't know, copy or clone of the Cube things. It has even. I'm not sure if the Cube has that, but the QAV one has sensor heating to make sure that they operate at optimal efficiency throughout. Whatever
the orange is heated.
What happens if it's really hot?
The basics are the biggest.
The micro air conditioner in there kicks in.
Yeah, they're both
just
the same.
A Peltier element would do it. Yeah.
The biggest difference between the two is one is an ecosystem, one is a module for no good reason. Because if you look at the X7, which I have here, and the X5 and X7, they're very good controllers. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with them because there isn't. I've never had an issue with any of them. However, they are a cube for no good reason, because if you look at what the Cube Autopilot is, it's an ecosystem. One connector carrier board with multiple different carriers with multiple different cubes for different uses. Yet CUAV have made a very good flight controller. However, it is pointless being a cube for the most part, because there are not really applications out there where you can buy other carrier boards. Now, I will add, people have made carrier boards for them in the PX4 universe, the closed source PX4 universe. However, for consumers, there literally is no benefit for those being a cube.
So there's a cube on another carrier board. So that's what you're getting with the proper cube, is the ability to plug it into someone else's carrier board and do other stuff.
And it's amazing how many other, I'm going to say, avionics or board designers go, oh, we've got this fantastic flight controller and it looks really nice. It's in this lovely box and it's got all these outputs you can use. But right in the heart of it, guess what it is? Cube.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people redesign carrier boards and then go, this is our flight controller, but it's actually just a cube in there. It's astounding.
Here we go. I can finally. You see it. All right, here comes your link, Philip. Sorry, here it is. It just the book of the face was not opening. So there it is, Philip. The book of the face was not opening for me, but it has now. The internet seems to have slowed right down here again.
It's the metaverse. They are metaverse.
It's metaverse.
That's the trouble. You're opening the wrong thing, Gary.
Oh yeah. Don't get me ranting about
Fingers
that.
in the wrong
What a
hole.
load of tosh. What a load of old tosh.
No, the metaverse is new. A metaverse is just. It's like a rebrand of the internet. It's
shiny. It's shiny.
To rebrand the World Wide Web. What we'll do is we're going to come up with a new word for it all because it needs rebranding. So we're going to call it all the metaverse.
And we're going to trademark the name so you can't use it without paying us money.
It sounds like a new version of the Second Life game that was popular a few years ago.
Exactly. I have sent the link to Philip. He's probably having his hair and makeup done if he's still going to join.
Before he comes on, he has to have that thing. Yes.
That's probably what is.
He's getting tips from Jonathan Ruprecht.
Yes. Oh, here he comes. Right. All right, everybody, behave now. Everyone's got to behave. Here he is. Here he is. Now, Nicola.
Nicola, you're killing me there. You're asking all these questions. I'm trying to type and thinking this isn't going to line up with any of the conversation anyway.
If you get a blue T-shirt, is it made in America?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Our frisbees are made in America.
Oh, there you go. So they're all right. So explain whatever you want to explain and why.
Oh, look, for the Blue Cube, there are definitely American companies who want made in USA. Now, unfortunately, we're no longer allowed to call it made in USA. We've covered that topic last week. It's manufactured in USA, so got to get these terms right because it's got a French processor in it, so it can't be made in USA. So that's why we have blue. Why do various companies in Europe and stuff use it? Because there's a little issue about which countries recognize the sovereignty of a particular island in the South China Sea. And depending on what you agree with, what politics there is, whether or not our orange cube is made in Taiwan, or whether you want to define it as made somewhere else.
It's got a French processor. It's got isn't it a risky thing? Because when things get hard, it'll just throw up its hands and surrender.
Yeah, look, we've got to throw the French something though, because we didn't buy their submarines, so we're still using their processors. So yeah.
It's all right. We'll come along and just undercut the deal. Don't worry. We'll just come along and undercut the deal.
When British start making decent
it's
processors,
British made. It's British
we'll
made.
start using it. I mean,
It's
I don't know. I
divine.
remember the old BBC computer, but I don't even know if that was British.
Yeah, it's a British
Yeah,
design.
6502, isn't it?
Let's remember,
Hush
Yeah.
your mouth.
Made
Hush
in
your
Hong Kong.
mouth.
a little company. In
I see the
UK.
deal between Nvidia and ARM has almost fallen through. They reckon they've given up on it now, so
Yeah,
they won't
pretty
be
much
buying ARM.
because ARM has basically the Chinese branch of ARM has gone all on its own. That's another issue altogether. But yeah, and
Really
back
crazy
to the
independence.
ADSB. Yes, you can buy the ADSB by itself. It costs the same price as a cube and a carrier board with the ADSB included for free. So it really
Nice to
is
have the
a
choice.
very special deal that we've got there. So we don't get them for free from UAvionics, the chip. We do have to pay for them, but we absorb that. Basically, we wanted to get that across the board. Because, okay, in your country it might not be practical, but in Australia or UK or various other places where ADSB is actually used by a lot of people, and anyone that has a brain nowadays in general aviation uses ADSB. If they don't use ADSB, well,
they've proven
that's
time
the
and
problem.
time again that brain is pretty much the only thing they don't have.
yeah. So
So that's a stretch.
I wasn't complimenting the general aviation field there.
So why is it blue? Why types asking it? Why is it going to be in a blue housing?
The blue housing is just to say that it was manufactured in USA. That's it.
And does that align with the idea of the blue SUAS program?
Yes and no. All of our products align with the Blue SUAS product, every single one of them. Blue SUAS means it's NDAA compliant. Every single one of our products is NDAA compliant. NDAA has nothing to do with country of origin. It has to do with whether you're on a banned list or not. There are certain telecommunications companies from certain regions of the world that we're all probably aware of that are on the banned list and things like that. So it's just making sure you don't have any components that have any association with them or, any of these banned companies, of which we don't. So NDAA is actually the easy one. That's a big thing from our Swiss friends. They do a big thing that, their stuff is NDAA compliant. Big deal. Whoop-de-doop-de-doo. All of our stuff is, their stuff is, it doesn't really matter. But there are other applications where the content of American manufacture matters, and in those cases, the blue definitely matters. So there are definitely cases where that matters, and there are some security applications where the final step of programming must be done in the USA or an allied country. In
As
which
Mitchell
case,
was saying.
that's the most critical step there, because there is still geopolitical confusion over the status of a particular island where we manufacture the orange in some countries. So, yeah. So yeah,
Right.
basically,
So,
Nicola, you don't need a blue, and even
Okay,
to people
cool.
who are buying
I-
blue, most of them
I
don't.
actually figured that out by comparing the specs, and I was
Yeah.
completely in shock that they are the exact same thing. One
They
is
are.
just 3 times more expensive. But
Yeah.
just to clarify one thing, we're calling the US now a trusted country? Only guy not laughing.
He's got to answer this
Um,
carefully, isn't he?
You sure you got that right?
Don't, he doesn't have to answer that. He doesn't have to answer that.
Yeah,
moving on very
geopolitics
quickly.
are a lot more confusing this year than even 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago it was just funny.
2 more years and chances are they may get even more confusing. So
Yeah,
for you,
we'll see. We'll see.
if that troll gets back to the White House, that'll be.
What do you mean? He's the only one that hasn't started a war.
Maybe.
Well, true.
There you go. You gotta grab the little bits of goodness.
I gotta give him that. The
Yeah.
world was a much more peaceful place when he was in the White House.
Exactly.
He didn't
And at
know
the
how
end
to
of the
push a
day-
button. He didn't know how to push a button. How bad is that?
Yeah, they were afraid he would, so they hid it away in the cupboard. So the
exactly, which saved everyone from wars. So bring it on.
Yeah, maybe
that's all right.
maybe
We'll
there's
treat
that
around
way
the
of looking
corner.
at it. On a Twin, can you get the cube to detect the loss of an engine and apply rudder? Well, that's more the software than the cube itself, but I'll still let you answer that.
Well, I suppose if they're running, well, I mean, look, if you lose thrust in a Twin, ArduPilot automatically pulls in the rudder as soon as it detects the asymmetric movement anyway. Like, it just sort of comes with the territory. If your rudder's big enough, it's going to work. If your rudder's not big enough, well, bye-bye.
Everybody loves a spin.
Yeah,
everybody
exactly.
loves a spin.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a function of the autopilot. It's more the code. But
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
curious about something else.
But even the code, it's more about the mechanical of the airframe. Like, if
Well-
the airframe's not up to it, the code ain't going to do anything.
Here's a redundancy issue.
Yep.
Say you have a VTOL and it's
9S.
flying in plane mode, but for some reason one of the ailerons or both just get disconnected.
Yes.
Would ArduPilot use the VTOL motors to roll the plane one way or the other?
It
and
will.
How would it know the ailerons are not working?
It wouldn't know the ailerons are not working, and it's irrelevant if the ailerons are working or not. If the ailerons are not effective enough and it gets past a certain angle, it'll basically trigger a Q hover, and it'll flick into Q hover and recover the situation. So it actually doesn't matter.
Wait. How would switching to Q hover solve anything? You're 15 kilometers out and it switches to Q hover. There's no way you're getting back. I mean,
that you asked one question. Now you've done a political thing. You've turned it into two questions.
No, I asked one
I've
question.
answered your question.
I didn't ask if it would switch to Q hover. I asked if it would use the motors, the VTOL motors, while in plane mode.
The answer is yes, it would. But the continuation of that is, and then it would transfer it to Q hover. Like, if your ailerons are actually stuffed, you could force it back into fixed wing mode if you wanted to, and struggle back using the rudder or something like that. But it would save it in the first place and stop it from, flipping over and crashing. And depending on the rest of the aircraft in the game, we go back to the mechanical design of the aircraft, etc., etc. Don't know. We'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
But then you're bringing a quadcopter home, basically.
Yeah.
If it all goes wrong,
with a bit of Lua scripting, you could probably tell it that, hey, I've lost my ailerons, and flick a switch on your transmitter to say no aileron mode, and script it to use the props instead of the ailerons.
I was just about to say, surely you could just, if you could tell it that, okay, if they're not working, I want to steer on the motor, so I want to slow this one down, I want to speed this one up, I can now do my turn.
The challenging thing, if you're just using them temporarily, is each time you start them up and stop them, you're going to get a thump. Because motors don't tend to like starting gently when you're flying forward. So you do get some pretty nasty effects there. But if that was the method you chose to add your redundancy, then cool. My suggestion would be splitting up your ailerons and adding split servo controls to your ailerons, so you actually just have redundancy on the flight control surface in the first place. But there's more than one way to skin a cat.
And with fixed pitch props,
not sure you're allowed to say that these days, but anyway. With
fixed pitch lift props, you're going to get vibration as well if you got forward speed.
Oh, you get all sorts of nasty stuff. Didn't say it was going to be pretty, just said it saved your aircraft.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And Mitch is also saying, "Me nice if the cube offered." Here it is. And now you've told us why you didn't do that.
Oh,
before.
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, that one's an interesting one, because the actual chip that is used for OSD has been end of life since I think 2013 or something. And so the ones you're seeing on the Maytech boards and all of that are either some Chinese clone that doesn't exist in the Western market, so therefore we can't get, or they're recovered out of old set-top boxes and things like that and recycled. The recycled chip industry is very, very strong within the UAV world. That's one of the reasons why we can't even buy a processor for... Well, at the moment, I'll give you a price. I'm going to tell you our price that we're paying at the moment for an IMU, for an ICM 20602 IMU. They cost us $17 at the moment each. Like,
do you want to buy some old NAS 32 boards?
Exactly. Like, so to actually build these Maytechs and that at the prices they're doing, they are clearly having alternative sources of new products than the actual proper supply chains, because the proper supply chains are a lot more expensive than what they sell their end product. So that's basically why we don't do it, because we couldn't compete in that market, and therefore we basically just acknowledge that, hey, it's an open source world and people can buy a Maytech with a onboard OSD if they want to for that sort of thing. If they're doing FPV and stuff like that, then they're probably, if they're expecting to crash, doesn't really matter.
But here's the thing: if that process is end of life now, is that the only one thing to get OSD out there? Isn't something better around that can be used?
I'm sure there could be, but it comes back to now, OSD is assuming analog video. If you're doing analog video beyond 300 feet or thereabouts, chances are in most countries in the world you are not following the regulations, because analog video is pretty much illegal everywhere in the world. And so this comes back to the lawsuit that Hobby King
only I'd known
had. Like, if they didn't have an American presence, they wouldn't have got in as much trouble as they did. But we have an American presence, we have an Australian presence, which means we have to do everything very much by the book. Therefore, we will have nothing to do with analog video. Therefore, we have no need for OSD. If you get down to the nitty-gritty.
Right.
Just get a hair link. Connect it to the computer. There's your OSD. So you can have a hair link, connect it to a Wi-Fi laptop, and pull it all in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you've got a hair link, you've got an OSD. But that's digital video, and that's a different category altogether. When we're talking about OSD, we're normally talking about analog video and feeding an overlay system on that. Department of Defense systems use an overlay in the digital video feed, but it's a digital video feed. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with digital video feeds. So when we talk about OSD in this hobby or industry, we're normally talking about analog video. So I'm just going to shut my dogs up.
Bang. Anyway, he's pretty harsh, isn't he? I think Hobby King did pay the fine, Ty, and then look, apparently Mitchell says it. The healing sucks.
I'll keep that one up. I didn't get to the end of that. What was that? It's a start, but it needs work. We recently got one with a free fly Astra. Well, your problem there is you're running PX4. Let's be blunt. So, moving on. Look, I mean, if someone's got a problem with one of our products and they want to come through the appropriate things, we always help our customers. So, cool. But, you always get people don't like it, whatever you do, and it is what it is.
Yeah. As John says, good burn. Very good burn indeed. And very good of you to jump on and tolerate us once more.
That's all right.
We've been here a long time. So has anyone else seen anything else that's really cool? Oh, there's the seat shot. Silly me. How could he not get a seat shot in? Titan advertising.
That's
Almost his
East,
backside
east
as
is
well.
the
That's
other
not good.
direction, Ian. That's
But
not east.
The backside shot.
just as well he's not a plumber. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say no to
Yeah.
crack.
Don't do drugs. Oh, he's done it again.
Now he's doing it on
You don't care. Don't care.
He waits till everyone's looking.
Yeah.
This is what we call a deep dive going on here.
What have you lost? What have you
So
lost,
Bruce,
Ian?
I've got a question. So your COVID-free island and everything. What happened?
I mean, as I said earlier, COVID's run rampant. We've got 25 cases now. I mean, seriously, the Prime Minister's cancelled their wedding. We're all just distraught. What are we going to do? Yeah, 25, mate. 25. That's a nation of 5 million people.
Day. It was 11,000 the day before, but I think it was 25 the day before that. 1,000. You meant 1,000, didn't you?
No, 25 people. This is just like the cricket. You guys win again.
It's pretty much usual here at the cricket and the soccer, but at the tennis, it's only 7,000 people allowed in because in a tennis stadium, COVID's really, really, really rampant. But in cricket and soccer, it's full seating because it doesn't spread in cricket and soccer fans.
It's good that they've done the research on that, isn't it? Because what was that guy, Novak Djokovic? He wasn't allowed in, was he?
No, but that really wasn't to do with COVID.
No.
That was to do with filling in our paperwork wrong. He forgot to say that he had a criminal record. And everyone knows that you don't come into Australia without a criminal record.
You've got to have this prerequisite. It's like in America where they say, are you now or have you ever been a member of a terrorist organisation on the immigration forms? Oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Do you consider the NRA or?
Well, quite so. Do they still play tennis in that funny little? Is where that held in Melbourne, just off the highway? That funny little sort of recess. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem because the lid can close. It's being counted as an indoor space, even though the lid is open. Yeah.
Yeah.
But aren't strawberries and cream an antidote? Don't they use those in the UK?
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, to anything, a nice gin and tonic and a Pimm's and all that sort of thing. Yeah, because every time I couldn't believe when I drove past it. Is that really the place that they make all the fuss about with the tennis? That place there? Is that really? Because it's a shabby.
The Ebola Drome. That's it, isn't it?
It's not. Yeah, it's no Wimbledon.
No.
No, it just always blew my mind that was the place. Right, we are definitely waffling.
That would be a tiny explosion, Gary.
Just got a Kelpie killing a poodle at the moment.
Well, not much happens.
And where do we place our bets on this?
You do need entertainment. Yeah, exactly. Place your bets now.
My bet's on the poodle in this case. I just need to make a loud noise and the Kelpie will go running into the corner with its tail between its legs.
Tie a sausage to a drone and lure it away.
Where was that? That was somewhere in England, wasn't it? Where they rescued the...
Yeah, it was in England. I can't believe that was true.
No, I like the statement about they carefully worked out the weight and balance and the required, and if it could lift the required weight of the sausage, etc., etc. So that was quite funny. That was quite good. Look,
if they'd flying one of these, they'd just use a cocktail sausage.
There you go. And but don't lift the stick. That would take it over weight and balance. Right, we are definitely talking nonsense. So going once.
It only happened after Phil arrived.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Philip, for joining. It was very kind of you. And to put to Elaine Nicholas' fears about the wildly expensive blue cube. Everyone wants one.
Yeah, buy an orange. You don't need a blue, buy an orange.
Just buy some paint, Nicola. Buy some paint.
But soon you'll just be able to buy the GPS from him. Just the GPS will do it.
That is true. The new Here 3 Plus coming out soon. If you've got CAN ESCs and somehow if using a CAN receiver, you actually don't need a autopilot to go with it. You just run ArduPilot on the GPS and be done with it. So, yeah.
Enough processing power on the GPS to do it, and the sensors, the required sensors to do it. So whether that is actually an autopilot.
Does it have heated sensors?
What's that? Does it have heated
sensors in the GPS? Because I can't even breathe without them anymore.
It depends on whether the sun's out or not.
It's passive heating.
Right.
It's very good.
Oh, pass.
It's green. It's a green version. Yeah. Very good. There you go. Make it green. Right. We're talking nonsense. Going once, going twice. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wherever in the world. Thank you very much for joining us. Be safe out there. Join us again, 2100 GMT next week, when we will no doubt talk more nonsense. Look after yourselves. Oh, and now we all got to hold up the same box, the same. Anyway, cheers for now. Bye bye. Too clear.